Hey, it's Taz with Handheld Hollywood. A couple weeks ago I posted an article showing various apps that will turn your iPhone into a teleprompter. And one of the problems with using an iPhone as a teleprompter is there's no really convenient way to keep the iPhone directly next to the lens of your camera. I mentioned a piece of hardware in that article called the ProPrompter Wing. And at the time I had no experience with it, I just read about it. Well, the folks over at Bodelin saw that article and decided to send me over a testing unit. So this is it right here. It's actually got an iPhone mounted on it right now, as well as a digital SLR. This is a Nikon D90. It takes HD video, which is why I was using this one. But as you can see, it allows for mounting of the iPhone directly next to the lens of pretty much any small camcorder. If you don't have a digital SLR, you can certainly use any small camcorder. Here's a Kodak ZI-8 I just picked up, great little camera. This works great on there. Mounts pretty much right next to the iPhone. This rig almost seems too big for that, but it works quite nicely. Basically consists of three different parts. There's the metal base underneath that you mount your camera to. It has an adjustable screw. In fact, let me take the camera off. I'll take the iPhone out too. So this is the piece bare. It's very simple, as you can see. So the bottom piece right here is where you use your 1/4-inch screw and you mount it into the bottom of your camera. So any camera can fit on here because this will slide back and forth so you can get any distance. You want to put the lens right about even or slightly behind this piece here. This is what holds your iPhone. This is the second piece, also adjustable. Another screw here so you can change the distance of the iPhone holder from your lens. So if you have a large lens with a big hood, you can put it slightly further away. Ideally, you want to put this as close to your lens as possible because you want your iPhone directly next to your lens. So that's that. Then there's another screw right here in the middle that allows you to actually do some other adjustments. If for some reason you don't want it at a right angle, you can move this part a little further and closer. This piece right here, which actually holds the iPhone, it's as I mentioned, it's adjustable. It'll go back and forth. It's also adjustable in the back. It has a little screw that allows you to heighten it. The reason you want to do this, for one reason, is probably if your iPhone has a case on it. If you always have your iPhone in a thick case, this is a great little adjustment, so it'll always fit inside here. And the way it works, the way your iPhone mounts in here, is there's a little clamp on the very top. And just by pulling it, one little piece pops up. This is all padded inside here. So if you were to take your iPhone and put it right in here, it just sort of clamps down on it. You just release the clamp and it clamps down on the phone. So it might not seem very sturdy. And in fact, I probably wouldn't do any crazy whip pans like this, but I do feel confident enough to do this. It's really not coming out of there. Like I said, it is just a clamp, so you could pull it right out. So I would hesitate using this on any kind of crazy rapid camera movement. The Wing also has a 1/4-inch screw hole at the bottom, so you can attach this to a tripod, which is what we did for our tests that I'll show you in a moment. So it can remain perfectly steady. But of course, it is light and compact enough that this makes for an excellent portable teleprompter rig. And we did a quick test of that as well. Now there's some tricks you need to know when you're using a system like this. It's the same tricks you'd use if you were using cue cards in a studio situation. The problem is, because your teleprompter is off to the side of the lens, your actor, your on-camera talent, is going to be looking slightly to the side of the lens, creating kind of a disconnect. Obviously, the further away that actor has to look to see the cue cards in the prompter, the greater the disconnect. So you want them looking as close to the lens as possible. So there's two tricks that help you do that. The first is distance. You want to get your actor, your talent, as far away from the lens as possible and still able to read the prompter. And to explain why I actually made this little animation, let's take a look. This is an overhead diagram of your actor standing in front of the camera. The blue line represents your actor looking directly into the lens, which ideally is what we're trying to simulate here. The red line represents your actor looking at the teleprompter mounted next to the lens. As you can see, those two lines have quite an angle between them, and the bigger the angle, the more obvious it is that your actor is looking off to the side of the lens. So you're trying to decrease that angle, and the easiest way to do it is to move your actor further away from the camera. As you can see, the two lines have practically become one. Even though the actor is still looking at the iPhone screen, it now looks as if the actor is looking directly into the lens, and that's the trick. Let me bring them back together again so you can see the difference in the angle. Now the other thing you have to compensate for here is your zoom. Obviously, when your talent is close to the camera, you're probably going to be using a pretty wide angle lens. But as your actor moves further away, they're going to become very small on the screen. So to compensate, you have to zoom up on them or put a longer lens on your camera. Now obviously this is going to change the composition of your shot, but for this trick to work, it's a trade-off you have to be willing to make. The second trick is quite a bit easier. just tell your on-screen talent to never look directly into the lens. Tell them to always look at the teleprompter no matter what. Even when they're not actually reading off it, tell them to look at the prompter anyway. Because as soon as they switch from the prompter to the camera, the audience will pick up that shift and immediately sense that they were reading, and it just kind of ruins the whole illusion. So you never want them looking directly into lens. Always look at the teleprompter. Okay, so let's talk about the test footage that we shot. I shot these tests at Dirt Cheap Soundstage in West Los Angeles. They're one of Handheld Hollywood's advertisers, and very graciously let us shoot our tests there. And I suspect we'll be shooting a few more tests there as well, so you begin to recognize the facility. But they're a great place if you need to shoot something on the west side of LA on the cheap. They've got a huge green screen, lighting and grip. They're excellent. I also want to thank Jason Benesh. He's one of the co-owners of the place, and he's actually going to be our on-camera talent for these tests. So what are you testing when you test something like this? Really, what you want to test is how far away your actor can stand from the lens. That's really what it all comes down to, because the further they can stand away, the more you're going to be able to sell the illusion. So Bodelin recommends that your talent stands between 6 and 8 feet away from the lens. So we tested 6 feet, 8 feet, and 10 feet. So let's take a look at those tests.
A teleprompter is a display device that prompts a...
This is 6 feet. It's the minimum distance that Bodelin recommends when shooting with the Wing. For my taste, it's a little disconnected, but not too bad.
The first teleprompters are simple.
8 feet is definitely an improvement. Jason had no problem reading the teleprompter here, and I think the illusion is really starting to sell.
Advanced as the performer read. In the late 1990s...
And of course, if you've got 10 feet, use it, because I think this looks terrific. And again, Jason had no problem reading this, but he has pretty good eyesight.
Less weight on the camera and improved portability.
We actually tried 12 feet, 14 feet, and a few other variations, and Jason was in fact able to read the teleprompter from that distance. But the problem was, in order for him to read it, we had to increase the font size from 60, which is what we had been using for all of our tests, up to 72. And in doing that, it took the large words in the script and broke them onto 2 separate lines, which just kind of became difficult for him to read. Not because he couldn't see it, but because he couldn't read the words. If we had turned it down to 60, then he was having difficulty reading it at that distance. So obviously that's things you have to play with, size, the colors as well. In fact, we didn't use black and white, we used tan over gray. Because for some reason, white fonts over the black background looked too fuzzy from a distance. But by decreasing the contrast by using tan and gray, it looked terrific. So another advantage of this, obviously, it is light and portable. So we shot some test footage with me just kind of walking around, and Jason and I just kind of walking in a circle around each other. Not the greatest cameraman in the world, but you get the idea. So take a look at this footage.
Originally used so that Lucille Ball could read commercials on camera, it soon became a staple for television news.
I think this footage works pretty well. I think the fact that we're both moving actually masks the fact that he's looking slightly off camera.
In the early 2000s, teleprompters switched from traditional CRTs to LCD monitors.
So after running the tests and playing around with it a little bit more, I have to say I'm very impressed with the ProPrompter Wing. It's really nicely designed for something that's essentially a very simple device. They clearly put a lot of thought into it. It's flexible. I was able to put many different cameras on here with the same results. I trust it with my iPhone, which is saying a lot because I don't trust anybody with my iPhone. But all in all, it's pretty terrific. I think it fills a certain need. And the fact is, it collapses small enough you can stick it in your back pocket, and you can always have a mobile teleprompter with you. I think it's pretty terrific. Anyway, you can learn more about it on our website. Go to handheldhollywood.com. We'll have a link to Bodelin, the manufacturer. There's also a place for discussion. If anyone else has used it and has their own thoughts, by all means, please post them. And this is Taz for Handheld Hollywood. We'll see you next time.